Welcome to Norse Talk, Information of the Gods. I am Red Bearded Viking. This is Red Dranger. And tonight, you guys, we are excited. We are finally getting started on the study Havamal tonight.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. If you guys are joining us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, like and comment. Um, we love to hear everything that people have to say about the show as they watch it on YouTube. So leave those comments for us as well. So it's been an exciting journey, Red. Getting finished with that last book. We took a little bit of a break, you guys. Did some stuff with the community. It's been an awesome time, but this has been a much awaited coming of this new book and getting started on this. A few announcements tonight, you guys. The new merch line is out. Most of it is up on the merch store now, so you guys can go check that out. The link is in the bio under the Beacons page for the merch. The old merch, we're going to be putting out on Discord a 25% off promo code, and we're going to discontinue the old merch as of Sunday. Sunday will be the last day that the old merch is available, and it'll all be the new merch for the Havamal after that. So that's exciting as well, you guys. I do got to give a shout out tonight, you guys, to Punisher 1887. He had sent me one of the books that was on my Amazon wish list for my birthday. So I got that in the mail the other day, and I'm excited to get reading on that. But I got to give a shout out to him and thank him for the birthday gift. You guys, I do have a link up on Amazon for my birthday wish list. If you guys want to check it out and send me anything, you don't have to, but it's much appreciated. So how's it been going, Red?
Dude, I'm so excited to start this book. Like we've been talking about, guys, in the past episodes when we were talking about starting this one. This book is going to be a little bit different because we are reading stanzas and because the language is so specific, and that's the discussion that we're going to be having. We are going to be doing a lot of reading of the stanzas verbatim out loud and then going over them. We've also, each of us, decided to purchase a second copy of the Havamal from Amazon. I chose the one that Amazon said was the most bought. And we were really excited to figure out that we don't know if these two have similar verses. And we kind of wanted to wait till tonight to figure that out. But if all works out, we now have 5 different translations, not counting the traditional Icelandic, I believe it was, that's in this book that I am not going to be trying to read at all because I will butcher them. We're really excited. I hope that you guys have ordered your copy of the Havamal if you haven't yet. Again, I can't stress this enough. If you are going to buy any one of the books that we go over, this one is the most valuable to you to buy. Simply because this book does have note pages built into every stanza. And when we do get into the question and answer periods of the show, hopefully different members of the community are going to step up and give their thoughts on it, or even add a 6th or 7th translation. We don't know the specific number that is out there. So
Right.
this book and the amount of knowledge that we are going to be able to collect personally with the help of the community are going to make these invaluable to every single person that owns one, and it's going to be one of those books that you're going to hold on to forever. I'm so excited to be doing this book with you guys. I can't believe how well the Ossetru went, the amount of discussion that we were able to have with you guys, the amount of new people that we met along the way. And now that journey is over, we're starting another one. And I can't wait to see what's around the bend next and which amazing people that we've not yet met are going to be including their thoughts in the near future. And that all goes out to you guys. And I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being here for us.
No, I 100% agree. You guys have been amazing. Like everybody that's been showing up, everybody participating, all the new people and the regulars and everything. Like you guys are so amazing with helping us do this and helping us see the other viewpoints and helping us gain knowledge along the way, along with you. Like it's been an amazing journey, and we're just excited to continue it with this next book.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this book real quick. Before we dive into the book, I just want to pose a question to you, Red. What exactly is the Havamal? What is the Havamal supposed to represent?
So the Havamal, depending on the translations, like I said, the easiest way to kind of describe it is going to be looking at the title of this one. It's labeled the Havamal words of the High One. It's also referred to as the Wanderer's Havamal, which again is referring to the words of the Allfather. It's referring to the words of Odin. Some of the books sort out the different stanzas into almost different categories. This one, you're going to have stanzas that talk about hospitality, interpersonal relationships, women, that kind of stuff. And basically, it's just a breakdown of his thoughts and wisdom along his journey. A lot of these stanzas are going to talk about the journey, the path, the adventure, the movement. And it's all referring back to that path. And these are not, and I really want to stress this, these are not commandments. These are not rules. This is the words of the High One. It is the words of somebody who in our faith thrives on knowledge, is known for seeking knowledge. And this is a collection of his thoughts on some of those issues. So I kind of trailed on there for a little bit, but that is my easiest description.
The way I kind of get it is like they're not commandments or anything, but they're more of a direction of how to be the right kind of person in life, how to walk into situations and evaluate them, and how to act properly, and as not to offend other people, and just basically it's explaining how to be a good human being.
It really goes into, like, if you get really deep into it, it really gets into the cultural aspect of how those communities worked amongst each other. A lot of these rules will seem kind of common sensus to people living in the modern era, where everything is easy and provided, and there's backup plans for stuff. There's if your crop doesn't grow, you're not going to starve. You know what I mean? Where the communities back then had to rely on each other. You had to, and that warrior's code, warrior's mentality is sewn into pretty much every stanza in this book, which directly relates to how those communities thrived, survived, and expanded. So it's going to be really, really interesting to get into that.
Right. And now the second Havamal that I have, you guys, because we have the study Havamal, which is the main one that we're using, and that we're taking all of our notes in. And then Red and myself, we talked about how we have separate Havamals. Mine is just a plain, straightforward verse for verse in one translation. It does, in the contents, break down the stanzas into different parts, where this one says wisdom for wanderers is the stanzas 1 through 79. And that's this version's explanation.
Yeah. Where this one, 1 through 79, is described as oh fuck, this one's got a big preface, sorry. There we go. The guest tale is what this one is referred to as.
Right. So each Havamal is going to refer to different stanzas as different groupings. So that's one thing that we want to mention, even in the comments. If you have a different one that has it a different way, let us know. We'll tell people about that one too.
Yeah.
Like we said, this book is going to be more interactive with comments. We'll be reading some of the comments as we go that pertain to the stanza that we're on. Other opinions and stuff, just be a little bit more interactive with everybody in the chat tonight. So we will be doing things a little bit different, and we may be changing it up as we go. We're discussing a couple different things. We did talk about it earlier before we started the episode. So those are some things for you guys to look forward to, is a little bit of change coming with how we do the different stanzas. So we're going to be trying a couple different things and just seeing what works best. So with that, let's start with stanza 1. Me and Red are just going to take turns reading the different translations, and then reading the one that we each have in our separate book. So I'll start out with stanza one. At every doorway, ere one enters, one should spy round, one should pry round. For uncertain is the writing that there be no foeman sitting within before one on the floor. And that was by Bray.
Yeah. So the next translation that we have, guys, is all doorways before going forward should be looked into. For difficult it is to know where foes may sit within the dwelling. And that was by Thorpe.
And then we have within the gates, ere a man shall go, full long let him look about him. For little he knows where a foe may lurk and sit in the seats within. And that one was Bellows. So then
Yeah.
Dranger is going to give you stanza one out of his other Havamal before I give you mine.
At every doorway before entering through, one should sneak around, one should peek around, since it is never certain if that be where foes sit on the floor ahead.
And then in mine, it says, one shall look through every door before entering. You never know where a foe could be hiding. So that one's like a very, very simple, broken down version of it. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what you'll get out of this second book is a really simplified version. So we'll keep that in mind too. Um, I'm just going to go over a couple of the notes that I wrote down that I got from it. And then I'm going to let Reg go over kind of what he got from it. And then we'll kind of discuss it a little bit. And, maybe we have some situations that we've run into that pertain to it that we can talk about. Or if people have stuff in the comments they would like to share with us, do that as well tonight, you guys. What I got out of it was be cautious when entering a hall or a building. Look this way and that because you never know what dangers might be waiting in form of foe or foes. Being cautious and considering the dangers is worth the time. Keep your eyes open. Don't be naive. Be aware of the possible dangers and keep your eyes open for them. Be aware of those present. Is there someone you don't know yet? Is there someone drinking too much, visibly angry, or look as though they might start trouble? Tone and mood of the environment is important. In any situation, what are the hidden dangers? So be aware as you step through the doorways. And this kind of goes back to my military training of just being aware of my surroundings as I enter each place. It's something that was taught to me a long time ago, and it reminds me of that. It just kind of reminds me back to that period of my life when I was taught to do those type of things.
Yeah. So for me, I kind of focused on the language on this one. Gates and doorways and entering a new room. None of the stanzas that I read kind of articulate on if this is a new room or a familiar room. Is this a room in your dwelling? Is this somewhere else? So to me, it came off as entering something new is starting something new, something from the beginning, and looking at that with a cautious eye is always wise. If you're a guest, are you expecting there to be foes? There was one of the stanzas where they did not refer to it as a guest. I've lost that one now here for a minute. The way it's translated differently among them kind of leads one to really look into the stanzas a little deeper and to me look at the social aspect of that. It's you're in a new place, and like we talked about with the different prayers and theories in the previous book about a Norseman should never be far from his weapon because you never know where a foe may be, and that one kind of really does reflect back to this one. It's a really interesting stanza, and it's really interesting that is the first one that the book states out about starting what again is opening a new door, which is kind of what we're doing by cracking this book open right now and starting. But be cautious, wade in, keep your wits about you, wade in slowly, keep your eye on what risks are about, and not just that, but I got I got a hint that you weren't just being told to look out for physical risk in the room, but it kind of made me think of what are the intents of the people. People show their intents very clearly sometimes when they're not expecting it. And by surveying the room and taking account of the people around in you, you might get to see something that you might not if you weren't paying that kind of attention, which is leads to, again, working with more information, and with more information you make better decisions. And that's where my mind keeps going with this one.
Right. And it's just like, when we go live and stuff, like we have to be aware of what's going on in the comments and the
Mhm.
people coming in and the intention that they have when they come in. It's
Yeah,
just keeping your eyes open and not letting yourself be foolish by being blinded to what's going on around you.
exactly. Yeah, because you never know. I mean, just you look at this live as an example. We are a room of mostly people that don't know each other. We're fairly strangers to each other that are sitting here learning with each other. And every once in a while, somebody will jump in who's not here for that purpose. And how we choose to react to that can affect the room. If me and Redbeard at every troll comment had to engage them, had to get mad, had to swear, had to throw a hissy fit, the purpose of this journey would be kind of defeated, because it would have shifted. Our purpose would be, and again, there's going to be a lot of rabbit holes in this book, guys, and one stanza is something that we can talk to death for hours, and so we're not going to have answers for this book. There is not going to be one definition that we're all going to agree on.
Well, and that's one of the biggest things to remember as we're going through this book. As we said with the last book, you guys, these are our personal opinions on what we read. These are by means no um, set in stone type way. Everybody has their own opinion. We want to hear other people's opinions, but that's all they are,
Yeah.
is our opinions of how we interpreted it,
Yes.
and what it speaks to us. It's going to speak differently to different people. So, by all means, just remember that this is just a discussion and these are our opinions.
Yeah.
So, next we have
Well, welcome.
stanza 2. So, I'll start off with Hail, ye givers. A guest is come. Say, where shall he sit within? Much pressed is he who fain on the hearth would seek for warmth and weal. And that was by Bray.
Yeah. Number 2, again, this one's from Thrope. Givers hail, a guest is come in. Where shall he sit? In much haste is he who is on the ways, has to try his luck.
And Bellows said, Hail to the giver, a guest has come. Where shall the stranger sit? Swift shall he be, who with swords shall try the proof of his might to make.
Yeah. And that leads into the words of the other copy of the Havamal that I have. Hail the givers, a guest has come in. Where shall this one sit? Much hurried is he who shall lie by the fire and so test his luck.
And then I have, Praise be to givers, a guest has entered. Where shall he sit? In a hurry he is, for his life is constantly tested amongst the journey.
Hmm.
So that one is like, that one seems a little bit different to me than what is being said in some of the other translations. What I got out of the study Havamal was, we must be a good host when hosting and a good guest when being a guest.
Yeah.
Basically, as the guest proceeds, he is welcomed into the room by us, but he is questioned to be measured up. Um, Seat him next to the fire, but his trust must be earned, not freely given, and he must prove his place. So you should be a good guest and all will go well. But if you're a bad guest, you will not be accepted and welcomed back.
Yeah.
So it's like, as a good host, you're supposed to welcome the person in, but the person has to prove themselves a good guest,
Yeah.
because they are virtually a stranger being welcomed in. And we kind of do this in our rooms, where everybody's welcome in. And the one thing that is going to get you unwelcomed is being rude, to other people in the room, and just um, not being respectful. Everybody's welcome here, but if you prove yourself to be here to cause problems, then you're no longer going to be a welcome guest.
Yeah.
So I kind of related that a little bit to how we run Norris Talk.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I noticed out of this stanza is all but Bellows um, referred to the person as a guest, where Bellows, I believe it was. Um, nope, sorry, I got that wrong. Which one is it that refers to him as a stranger? Oh yeah, sorry, it was Bellows. I apologize. I thought I wrote it down wrong. Everybody else is referred to as a guest, and then Bellows says the word stranger. So for me, that again popped into my head. Well, what is the difference, and why is it different in one of these and not the other ones? Because a guest and a stranger, in the way that we kind of think about it modernly, are very different people. A guest is somebody that you've welcomed in. It's somebody that you've made that connection with to take that next step. Where a stranger, if you were offering these things to a stranger, it would be kind of because you were duty bound to do so. And that's kind of where it led me to think next was that conversation we had about the Warriors Code at the end of the Ossetru, when it spoke to the success and the way that cultures that used that similar code had successes by everybody being bound to that initial set. You had to offer to be a good host, but you also had to offer to be a good guest. And whichever one of you two that did not meet that threshold would be the one dishonored. You would be the one that was not earning your place. Your Orlog would be affected by that.
Right.
Which is where that led me to thinking, is that, again, this was kind of a way of explaining that, yeah, if you get into a hard place and you have nowhere to go, you know that your neighbors and the members of the community are going to be there for you, because they know in turn that if it was them on the street, they would receive the same. So it was almost like a way of stringing in kind of a social net to a very, I mean, because if you look at the modernly, if you get into a hard place, there are things set to help you. If you lose your job, there's employment insurance. If you get hurt, there's medical insurance. These cultures didn't have that. They had their wits, their arms, their brawn, and their communities. So right. Sewing in a social structure of interdependence and dependability seems almost absolutely necessary for it to be survivable. And that's why I think you see so much success in those cultures that were warrior based like that, because to lose that honor was the worst thing that could happen to you, so it kept you bound to that.
Right. And another way to look at it in modern terms is like, if you think about when somebody's starting a new job, somebody that's new, everybody's welcoming to them when they're coming in, but they're also sizing you up that day. They're checking you out, seeing if, like, they're making judgments about you based on your performance, based on your willingness to ask questions when you don't know things. Everything in that aspect is, if you want to look at it in modern terms, that's one way to look at it, to compare it, is just you're always welcomed in, but you got to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Once you're here.
Yeah, it comes down to content to character. You're going to be given that opportunity, but you're going to be expected to act in according to the specific rules of that guest, and culturally that is different from culture to culture, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're talking specifically the northern tribes, the Germanic tribes, and how they interacted with each other. And yeah, it was fundamental, and it's again really cool that we're only into our second stanza, and we're already starting to see some of that social thread be woven into this.
No, I totally agree. So then we come to stanza 3, you guys. Stanza 3 starts out with, "He hath need of fire, who now is come, numbered with cold to the knee, or numbed with cold to the knee. Food and clothing the wanderer craves, who has fared o'er the rimy fell," by Bray.
Um, we do have a couple of people that have put in some different translations for 1 and 2.
Yes.
So after we read this, I'm going to go back and just kind of quickly go over those two.
Definitely.
So number 3 from Thorpe, "Fire is needful to him who is come in and whose knees are frozen. Food is remnant. A man requires who'er the fell has traveled."
And then Bellows said, "Fire he needs, who with frozen knees has come from the cold without. Food and clothes must be the fair have, the man from the mountains come."
Yeah. And again, back to the words of the high one version. "Fire he needs, who has come in with knees numb with the cold. Food and clothes this man needs, who has fared over the fell."
And then this one says, "Fire is needed to the guest who has entered and whose knees are frozen. Food and coverings a man requires, no matter how far he has traveled." And then we got a couple
Yeah.
of people in the comments as well that Red's going to read out.
Yeah. So 2 people have put in, well, it was the same person twice, has put in a version from the Wanderer's Havamal. The first one: "At every doorway before you enter, you should look around. You should take a good look around, for you never know where enemies might be seated within." Stanza 2, Wanderer's Havamal translation: "Hail to the good host, a guest has come inside. Where should he sit? He is impatient, standing at the threshold, ready to try his luck."
Nice.
So again, a lot more. I think she's just putting in the other translation. So before we start talking about the notes, I'm just going to wait for her to kick that in. So Redbeard, do you want to start with how you felt about stanza 3, and then once she's done typing it in, I'll read it in as well.
Yeah, for me, when I was looking at the translations, what I got from translations was, "When a cold guest arrives, get them warm. They will be in need of food and clothing." So when a guest comes to one's home, it is responsibility of the host to provide for the guests. It's your responsibility when you are hosting people to provide for those guests. Um, so welcome them warmly, offer them something to drink and eat or a snack. Let them know where the restroom is and a place they can clean up if so needed. Be attuned to your guests' needs as you are the host, and be willing to accommodate for them. And what I'm basically getting out of that is, like, we had talked about this in another episode back during the other book, when we were talking about, if I was going to have the Super Bowl's coming up, say I'm going to have a Super Bowl party, it's up to me when the guests show up to, even if people are bringing food and drink and stuff, let them know where to put their food, let them know where to put the drinks, offer them a drink, make sure everybody knows where the restroom is, if they need to get cleaned up, if they have kids coming over and are playing and you got kids too, and say they get out in the mud and the parents didn't bring a change of clothes, offer a change of clothes to let the kids clean up a little bit before dinner or whatever. It's just being a good host, and making sure that if you're going to be willing to host, that you're being accommodating to those people that you are hosting.
Yeah. So Kyrie has put in the other translation that she has. Again, the Wanderers Havamal translation, stanza 3. "He needs a fire, the one who has just come in. His knees are shivering. Food and dry clothes will do him well after his journey over the mountains." So
And
again,
somebody was
my
asking,
notes.
these are based off the Norse translation. This book has the Norse, uh, and the Old Norse, and three English translations in it. The
Was it
three English
Norse or was it
translations are by different
was it
writers.
Icelandic?
Huh?
Was it Icelandic or Norse? I don't remember.
No, Old Norse.
Oh, Norse. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, for this stanza, again, I went exactly to the same place that Redbeard went. Traditionally, if you were inviting a guest in, you were making sure that you provided them with a safe place. If they were in need, you are able and willing to meet that need. They are your guest. You are taking responsibility from them over doing the things that they would be doing to keep themselves fed, to keep themselves dry if they were at their own place. And vice versa, if you were at their place, it would be offered to you. To not do so would be seen as a dishonor. It would be seen as odd, because it would be something that you expected if you were to visit your neighbor or another hall or something like that. And again, that dials right back down to that woven, to me, again, this is my opinion, to that woven philosophy of people having to work together in these kind of environments to survive.
Definitely.
We in the modern world, in BC, we just faced a whole shit ton of floods on the coast. It disrupted the supply chain. It cut off families from electricity, power, medical attention, so on and so forth. And that's in the modern world. That is with the technology that we have, the excavating equipment, um, air travel, all of this stuff that they didn't have back then. So this kind of stuff was fundamental, because if your community failed, you failed along with it. It
Right.
was absolute interdependence. We don't really live that way anymore. If a business that we work for goes under, we find a new place to work. If we don't like our neighbors, we move. If we don't like the gym because people are whatever, we go to a different one. There are a lot of different avenues and conveniences that we have that didn't exist back then. So if you couldn't count on the people around you, you're buggered. And that's it had to happen for it to survive.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's just about like, just like if you have family coming in from out of town,
Yeah.
you know, and you invited them down, they come down, you got to make sure you have a place for them to sleep, make
Mhm.
sure you have blankets for them, all those things, you don't invite somebody down to stay at your home and then go, well, why didn't you bring an bed and some blankets and pillows and
Yeah.
stuff, It's just making sure that, if you're going to be willing to host those people, making sure that you accommodate them and are willing to take care of their needs while they're there, because you did ask them to come,
Mhm. And next
or
time
you
it would be,
welcome them in.
yeah.
In old times, it wasn't so much you asked them to come, it was you welcomed in a traveler.
Yeah.
And as soon as you welcome them in, you took on that responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not often that we welcome in wanderers nowadays, but, you
Yeah.
know,
Modernly speaking, this philosophy is completely different. The
yeah,
actions that this book tells you to treat people with are something that does not happen modernly. If your neighbor from 3 blocks over who you don't know shows up at your door, you're not going to offer him your couch for the night necessarily. It's a different kind of world, because we don't live our lives depending on those people anymore. You weren't going to see and recognize every face in your neighborhood. Now, everybody in a specific neighborhood could work up to 200 miles in any direction away from that neighborhood. They don't see each other every day. They don't work each other. They don't develop those interpersonal relationships with each other that these communities had to have to be able to survive and work together. And again, it's really cool to see how right off the bat, the book is speaking about how important that is, because if you can't depend on the people around you, you are fucked, basically.
right. Because it's like, nowadays, they used to know everybody that lived in their community,
Mm-hmm.
their small community. Like they knew who all their neighbors were and everything. Nowadays, most of us are lucky if we can name three of our neighbors. If we're lucky, maybe we can name three, most of us. Most of us
Yeah.
have no idea who our neighbors even are. except what they look like because we wave to each other when we're getting our mail.
Yeah. Well, and TikTok's the same among that. Like if you look at that old style honor code about people holding themselves to a certain level, you can have a person in here that may do something that really much costs them their name in the community, and all they have to do is create a new account with a new fake profile picture, and they're a new person. That orlog is almost kind of replaced in the virtual aspect of it. I don't mean literally; it's still a strike against his mark, but his or her. It's really interesting to see how the philosophy differs now and then, and looking at ways in your life that you can choose to incorporate that into if you want.
No, 100%. So then that leads us
Well,
into
exactly. There's
stanza four,
barriers.
you guys. Stanza four starts out with, he craves for water, who comes for refreshment, drying and friendly biting, marks of goodwill, fair fame, if 'tis one, and welcome once again from Bray.
So, and we get into Thropes. Water to him is needful, who for reflection comes a towel, a hospitable invitation, a good reception, if he can get it. Disclosure, the end answer. Thrope.
And Bellows says, water and towels are welcoming speech, should he find who comes to the feast. If renown, how would get, and again be greeted, wisely and well must he act.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads into the Words of the High One copy of the Havamal. Number 4. Water he needs for the refreshments has come, a towel and the folks welcome, good praise if he can get it, and so meet with words and welcome again.
And then this one says, water, towels, and a welcoming speech awaits everyone that travels to the feast. He will find praise and again be greeted. Wise and well must he act. And then did Kyrie have one?
She's not put her fourth one in yet. No. Oh wait, nope. Now she's working on it. Hold on. She's putting them in one line at a time, so it takes a little bit.
Not a problem.
Okay, so he needs water, the one who has just arrived, dry clothes, and a warm welcome from a friendly host, and if he can get it, a chance to listen and be listened to.
No.
That is a very interesting last line for that one. A very
Right.
interesting last line. I'm glad she put that in there.
So what I got out of stanza four, you guys, was um it's just basically continuing with the advice on hospitality. Is really where this is directed. And when a guest arrives for the feast or dinner, they should be welcome and offer them a drink. Um,
Yep.
Talk to your guests and allow them to talk as well. This is also where the guest must earn his right to be welcomed and accepted. So it is imperative as guests to be respectful and thankful to the host for welcoming them in into the feast. And when it's talking about um, they must be wise and well must he act, it's referring it back into the old Norse ways when people traveled. You were basically expected to, not come in and act all knowing, only talk about stuff that you are wise upon, and don't make yourself a fool by trying to show off, showing up to a new place and acting like you know everything going on there. Be respectful about the situations that you're walking into. If you have something that you can input that is based on um, wisdom, then by all means offer it. But don't be disrespectful by trying to fool people.
Yeah. So for me, I focused in on the words fame, renown, and praise. When we read fame, we think very modernly of that word, and it makes that word in this stanza, I think, a little bit bigger than it should be. Which is why I really enjoyed the last line of the one that Kyrie put in, a chance to listen and be listened to. The fundamental way of communication for the Germanic tribes was storytelling. It was sharing what you've been told by others with new groups of people. And if you could be trusted and you had honor, those stories were respected. So join the fame, renown, and praise in this stanza I see as really kind of referring as what either the hosts or the guests think about each other based on their interactions during that time. Are those social requirements being met? If they're not, why? What is different? What is going on? And if both do meet that threshold, if Redbeard comes to my place and he's an awesome guest, and Tilla knows that Redbeard's going over there at some point, he knows that I'm going to tell Tilla Redbeard was awesome when he was here. Redbeard did this, we did that, blah blah blah. Whereas if he was a shithead while he was here, he would expect me to pass that forward. You know what I mean? So both sides had to be it. If I was a horrid host while he was here, he would tell somebody else that was invited, and it would kind of either include you deeper into that community or exclude you more based on your own actions, based on your participation in that kind of pseudo social contract that was built in its code.
Right. And
Um,
it's just like when you guys have family gatherings and stuff, some of us have those family members that we know when they show up, it's just like everybody's like, we have to invite them, but nobody really wants them there just because
yeah.
all they are is drama, cause problems, things like that, they're just not good guests.
Mhm.
They're basically invited to the things that you have to invite them to, but they're not invited on a regular basis.
Yep, and that kind of social dynamic can be really disruptive to those kind of events. And so if you put that to a community size level, if there is somebody that shows up at every community event and is a disruption, is somebody that requires people to be taking away from what they should be doing to be dealing with something else, that person stops contributing to that community and becomes something that community then has to deal with, which robs that community of the ability to keep working for itself. Which is why that was so important, because you couldn't count on that person, you couldn't trust that person, and again, that was absolutely necessary for survival at this point in the Germanic tribes.
Well, and it's just like here on TikTok, like we all have those people, that will run into our lives that come in and like we kind of avoid the comments or we kind of avoid put them in the box
Mhm.
because there's been times when they've been in that they've just proven to like kind of turn the way that the feel of the room, like the
Mhm.
flow of the room. They kind of interrupt the flow that's going on, and it's not necessarily because you don't care about that person, but it's just not the right time, and it's just interrupting what's going on. And it's like you're having a great night and you're vibing with everybody, and you want to keep that flow going.
Yeah.
So you kind of tend to divert from certain people because you don't want to disrupt the flow.
Yeah. When the group of people assigns a title to you based on your actions, it's either going to be a positive one or a negative one. And we want to do whatever we can in our personal lives to make sure that reception of us is a positive one, because that's going to get you welcome back. That's going to get people wanting to participate with you. Whereas if you're known for, there are a few accounts that do jump into some of the lives that are known to act a specific way, or they're going to jump in and they're going to be pissed off at somebody that night. That they're going to be fighting with this person. And that even though you've told them, hey, we're keeping it about this tonight, that if you put them in the box, that's where they're going to take it.
Right.
And at that point, because they've earned that title, you're less likely to want them in. It's the same with you guys watching. Like if you jump into a live every once in a while and 90% of the time the live is awesome, the people are cool, but 10% of the time it's a fucking shit show. You're gonna remember the shit show. You know
Right.
what I mean? That's what's gonna start chiseling. I mean, it goes back to that old saying: it takes 1,000 "I love yous" to replace one "I hate you." The negative tends to stick a little bit more because the negative, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, is the easiest way to have an intern effect on you. If you're dealing with somebody that's dealing with something negative constantly, you are expending your energy on that instead of doing other things that you should be doing. Um, that's not to say that you don't stand up and fight for people when they need it, but it goes back to that kind of the boy who cried wolf thing. If you know it's going to be predicted, if I know an account is going to be fighting some troll today, and tomorrow they're going to be fighting another troll, and they're going to be fighting another troll, and they're going to be fighting another troll. It gets to the point where you have to look at the wisdom in that, and look at, why is this person choosing to fight every fight? Why is this person choosing to make this what their time is about? Um, Instead of just removing it from themselves and carrying on. And for some people, they have a very valid reason to do that. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that it just comes across very differently in a channel that might not be about that. They might have a different thought process or whatever.
Right. And a lot of it has to do with just reading the room. Like when you jump into a live, read the room and what's going on in the live, and act accordingly for what's going on. You know, we understand that people want to jump in and talk about certain things, but like if we're in a discussion on a live about something that's totally has nothing to do with it, you know, read the room. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same thing would be if I was jumping around live surfing one night and I came across a live where, and I'm being completely and totally hypothetical here, so please, if
Right.
three people that are usually in my live are in a live themselves and they're just talking mad shit about me, like just mad shit, what are the chances are that I'm going to welcome them back to my live? It's going to be that situation. It's going to be like, hi, why are you here? Like, what's going on? And
Heck yeah.
being accountable to those choices is important because it does affect your reputation. It does affect those interpersonal relationships. And again, it's not as relevant in a survival way nowadays because, let's face it, this is TikTok. If people don't like each other, they hit that block button and they go poof into Thanos. So,
Right.
whereas back then, the people that lived within 15 kilometers of you, they never changed. They
That
were
that
there,
block
and
button
their
back
kids
then
were
was a
there.
lot different.
Yeah. There were other more extreme ways that had to be dealt with at that point, right? So you really didn't want to be that person that became such a drag on the community where you were no longer welcome because your chances of surviving dripped dramatically.
That block button is our modern day axe to just cut people off.
Right?
But no, that's awesome because it like all this is leading us into stanza 5 right now, you guys. A lot of what we were talking about has to do with stanza 5 as well. Stanza 5 says, "He hath need of his wits who wanders wide. Aught simple will serve at home, but a gay stock is the fool who sits mid the wise and nothing knows." And that was Bray.
Wit is needful to him who travels far. At home all is easy. A laughing stock is he who nothing knows and with the instructed sits.
And that was Thorpe.
Yeah,
And
sorry,
then
that was fun.
Bellows says, "Wits must he have who wanders wide, but all is easy at home. At the witless man, the wise shall wink when among such men he sits."
So now we're going to get into the copy of the words of the high one, Havamal. Wits he needs, he who travels widely. Things dealt with at home are easy. With one glance, he's exposed the one who knows nothing, though midst the wise he sits. And Kyrie is just putting in. Oh, sorry, you got your.
This one says, anyone that wanders far must have wits. At home, all is easy. A joke is he that knows nothing, and with the instructed he sits.
Yeah. Okay, so Kyrie has another version that she's just put in. A man needs wisdom if he plans to wander widely. Life is easier at home. He'll be laughed at if he sits among the wise and has nothing to say.
Okay, and what I got out of this stanza, you guys, in my notes anyway, is that this accounts to the value of traveling away from home in order to learn and be tested by those you encounter. We kind of do that online as well when we travel into different rooms. Um, we're meeting people from all over the place that have different values, different ways that they do things, and different ways that they hold themselves. It speaks to the fact that a fool is easily spotted when he sits down with wise people. So one should learn the customs and ways of the places you are traveling, and that's just kind of what we were talking about with read the room. Read how their room is being held. You are a guest in somebody else's chat. You know, read the room, learn, don't walk in as a fool. A fool would be a troll. That sometimes, we engage for fun. And a lot of times we just don't even acknowledge that they're there. We just kind of give them that wink that, yeah, we saw you, but we're not going to comment, which is basically what this is saying. Don't be a fool among wise men when you're entering into something that they're about. Their home, their live, whatever it may be. Learn what's going on. You know, um, Watch what's going on, take in what's going on, and don't act a fool and just come in the fool and just start ranting and you know being foolish.
Yeah.
I think I said fool like 5 times right there. So
Well, and it's adamant in this one. So the first thing that I noticed with this stanza is most of them referred to as needs wisdom or needs to use wits. Um, and another one kind of speaks to having to gain the wits. So in a few of them, it kind of speaks to it being pre-existing and not used, and the other one kind of seems to speak to it still needed to be gained. The fool who sits with the wise men. For this one, it really got me thinking about what they meant by wise and where the translation could have gone to that word. When we think of wise, again, modernly, we think very much academic. We think they're wise in knowledge from reading, from studying, from texts, from tests, from degrees, blah, blah, blah. Where this stanza kind of hit me more on the experience level. He who sits at home where it is easy, who then tries to walk amongst those who actually do, that are actually in the world. And those who actually do all remember being at the beginning. They all remember first leaving the home. They all remember first coming of age. They all remember they're first at everything. And they can tell when somebody's not there. You can work any kind of job. Like say you're a fry cook and you hire somebody who says they have 5 years of working a burger station, and you put them in front of the fry cook and they don't even know how to unhook the bins. You're gonna be like, that's fucking sus as shit, bro. Right?
right.
You're gonna see it. It pops. It's impossible to hide that. And the same thing is again, one's reputation was all you carried with you. So if you were one known for telling stories that you hadn't earned, eventually that's going to come out. because the wise, the experienced, are going to see the holes in it. There's a difference between reading about something and doing. There's subtleties that do not get prescribed into stories. They're things that only people who do know about. You know what I mean? It's the same people that throw fishing nets for a living. Um, there's a specific way of doing that. You're not just throwing the net. It's a specific set of actions that you develop while becoming proficient and a professional at that activity. Somebody else who says that they've been throwing fishing nets all their life gets up and fucking throws it straight in the water, you're gonna be like, again, sus, right? Something's not lining up here. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what this one kind of reminded me of is own if you don't have an answer, own it. Don't fake it. If you're lost on your path, look to others. You don't have to fake it till you make it here. We're all at different levels. We're all in different places. We all have different wants and needs, things that are important to us. We're all very different people. Me and Redbeard are very different people. We get along great. The
And that,
people in the comments, we're
go
all
ahead.
different. And I'll kick it right back to you in 1 sec. It's important that we own that, because our experiences as we have them are just as valuable as everybody else's.
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't
Yeah.
give your interpretation or your opinion. Your
Mm-hmm.
opinions and interpretations are welcome. It's don't speak them as though they're fact. You
Exactly.
know, be open as well. When you're not knowledgeable and wise in something, be open as well to listening to others and
Yep.
learning from their interpretations as well, instead of being naive to think that your interpretation is the only one. I did want to read what Tilla wrote. Tilla said, "A wise counseled man will be mild in bearing and use his might in measure."
Right in measure. Yeah. Yeah. Again, we're only 5 stanzas in, and we could continue to talk for hours about these 5, especially when you start adding other stanzas in. And
Right.
it's really true. And and I am trying to relate all of these stanzas in some way to TikTok, and I'm doing that on purpose because TikTok is how most of us communicate. It is the reality of what this part of the community is right now. So it's kind of unavoidable.
Right. It's hard for us not to relate when this is the platform that we're using
Yeah,
to air our show, to move it to YouTube, to do everything that we're doing. It's hard not to try and associate the stanzas and everything that we do to make sure that we're becoming better people as we learn as well. And
yeah,
we're sharing this with community. That's why we want to be able
absolutely.
to relate a lot of it to what we do here online.
Yeah, yeah, and again, with where this discussion has gone, has automatically got me thinking again on the TikTok level of the problem with gatekeeping, the problem with the people that have a finite, unmovable opinion based on a limited source. I mean, we're just casually reading tonight, guys, and we have 6, I believe, different translations of each of these stanzas. And given they all are very similar, but they could all be interpreted very differently, very easily, based on an external influence of some sort.
Well, and it's about gathering all those interpretations and taking them in together to form an opinion based on all the information that you're given. Not just
Yeah,
taking one piece of information and saying that's it. It's learning from each piece of information to form
yeah,
a consensus that goes along with each other and follows each other as closely as possible, and being able to determine how you feel about it and what your feelings
exactly.
are moving forward, your interpretation. And the only thing you can do by hearing other people's interpretation is learn. You know, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to take anything from it at all. But you know what? If you're willing to be open to learn and listen and hear other people's interpretations, you could very well find something that you can get out of it.
Yeah. So that's 5. That we've made it through our first 5 stanzas of this new book.
And that's awesome. I can't wait to hit the Q&A section with you guys tonight. Just one more reminder real quick, you guys. Uh, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. Please like it. Follow us here on TikTok as well, you guys. You guys are amazing. Again, the merch is out for the new book. We will be posting a 25% off code for the previous merch and run that merch through Sunday. And then that merch will be done and only the new merch will be up, you guys. This has been an amazing night. We've had fun with this. I can't wait to hit the Q&A and hear what everybody else has to say. Before we sign off from YouTube, is there anything else you'd like to say, Red?
Again, I just want to remind anybody that jumped into the episode halfway through, we are working out of the study Havamal. If you want to work along with us, this is a great book. It's got pages in it for note taking. There is a link in Redbeard's Beacon if you're looking to purchase a copy. This is a great book to have, guys. Just because we're all going to be able to add so many notes from the discussions we're all going to be having. If you're going to buy any of the books that we go over now or in the future, right now, this is the one that I say is probably the highest value to actually buy a physical copy of and follow along.
I totally agree. Well, with that, guys, we are going to sign off for the YouTube purposes and jump into the Q&A. So, as I always say, guys, it's not a me thing. It's not a him thing. It's not a you thing. It's a we thing. We can't do it without each and every one of you. You guys stay amazing, stay creating, and as always, be awesome. And we'll see you in the Q&A. See you next time.